Hello and welcome back to Creative Vibes. And today we're going to go over a technique called I-cord edge. And that is, and I'll bring this closer to this camera here so you can see. Now it's this beautiful braided edge that you see right here. It's going to add a lot of, and I wanted to actually learn this because I wanted to actually work on my edge techniques a little bit more. So I figured once I learn this, I'd bring it to the channel and share what I've learned. So you'll have this here on the edge instead of just the standard edging that you normally see. So it just adds a little pop to your projects. I've seen it used on dishcloths. I've seen it used on scarves, headbands, and blankets. So the cool thing about this technique is that you could use it with any pattern. I've chosen to use the garter stitch because you can clearly see the differences in the stitching. And it's one of the more easier stitches to learn. So you can practice this technique with the garter stitch. It'll make it way easier. So what you'll need for this particular lesson is you'll need 2 straight needles. This cannot be done on circular needles, so you will need straight needles for this technique, and your chosen yarn. So grab that, come on back, and we'll get to learn the I-cord edge. So now that you have your materials, let's talk about casting on for a minute. So I've already casted on the desired amount for this tutorial, and I'm going to be doing the garter stitch. And I will attach that video if you need a refresher for that. So that is just a series of knits. So there isn't a set number that you would need for that. But you go along with whatever pattern you choose and the casting on requirements for that. So, but there is one thing that you do need to keep in mind. So you need to add on 3 extra stitches. Because I'm going to be doing a border on both sides, I'm going to need 3 extra stitches on the beginning and 3 extra stitches on the end. Some people choose to just have it on the end, so you just need to add 3 on the end. If you want to have it on both the beginning and the end, you'll need to add on essentially 6 extra stitches. If you just want to do it on one side, you'll just need to add on 3 additional stitches. So that's one key thing that you do need to remember for this technique. You have to make sure you add on the additional 3 to 6 stitches based on how you want your I-cord to show up on your work. So now that you've determined whether you want it on one edge or on both edges and how many extra stitches you have to cast on, we can begin with learning the technique. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to take from my right, now that I cast it on, and we're going to move on to the left. I'm going to scoot these over. Actually, I'm going to flip it like that, excuse me. And now we're going to begin working on the right side of the work. And you know you're on the right side of the work because your tail is going to be facing away from where you start to knit. So keep that in mind. So if you ever get lost, what side am I on? That's one good indication to know. So for those first 3 stitches, your first 3, what you'll need to do is with the yarn in the back, you're going to knit the first stitch. So we're going to knit that first one. We're going to bring the yarn forward as if we're going to purl, but we're not actually going to purl. What we're going to do is we're going to go in like we're going to purl, have our needle there. And all we're going to do is not actually do the action of purling, but we're just going to slip the stitch off onto your right-handed needle, okay? From there, you're going to take the yarn to the back and you're going to knit, okay? That's for your first 3 stitches. Now, depending upon your pattern, I have my 15 stitches here to go with my pattern that I chose, which again is going to be the garter stitch. So these 15 are going to go with that garter stitch pattern, which is just all knits. So we could just flow through that. So now we're at the last 3 stitches, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing you did with the beginning 3 stitches. With your yarn in the back, you're going to knit that one. With your yarn in the front, you're going to go in as if you are going to purl, but you're not going to actually purl. You're just going to slip off onto the right needle. Then you're going to take your yarn to the back and you're going to knit your last stitch. Okay, so that's what you do on your right side or your first row. Okay, now we're going to switch over, straighten your stitches out, and now we're going to begin with our first 3 stitches here. Now this is the wrong side, and you know you're on the wrong side because your tail is going to be facing where your first knit stitch is. I hope that makes sense. So what you're going to do with your yarn in the front, as if you're going to purl this first stitch, what you're going to do, let me get me a little bit more yarn, get back in focus here. So your yarn is going to be in the front, okay? You're going to take your needle as if to purl, but you're not going to purl, you're just going to slip that on to your right needle. That's all. Now what I do, just to try to keep control of everything, is I scoot my thumb under the yarn here. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to flip that to the back. Yarn to the back because you're going to knit this next stitch. We're going to knit that one. And then we're going to bring the yarn back to the front as if to purl. But we're not going to purl. All we're going to do is just take the needle there and slip off purlwise onto the right needle. Now you can begin your pattern, whichever you chose. Once again, we're doing the garter, but if you're doing something different, you do that pattern all the way to your last 3 stitches, and I'll see you at that point. More. All right. So we're going to do the same thing we did in the beginning now at the end of the row. So you're going to put your yarn in the front as if to purl. Put your needle in and just slip off purlwise onto the right needle. Bring your yarn to the back. We're going to knit. Bring your yarn to the front. Put your needle in and slip off purlwise. Now you see that now when you turn over, you're going to see this long thread of yarn, and this is going to be like in between this loop. Don't worry about that. It's going to work out fine. Don't get freaked out. This is exactly where it's supposed to be. So if your yarn looks like this before you flip over, you're looking good. Everything's fine. So as you knit your way up, if you've chosen to practice this with the garter stitch, you should look like this as you knit up. So you should have this beautiful braiding as you knit up, the I-cord over here. You should have your garter stitch in between, and then you should have the I-cord on the sides here. So very easy, just adds a little bit more flair to your projects. So let me know what you think about that. Would love, some feedback in the comments of some other things that you would like to learn. So like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Happy knitting.